Oddball was not your typical superhero. He was born with a rare condition that gave him psychic powers, but also made him dyslexic. He could read minds, move objects with his thoughts, and even manipulate reality to some extent. But he also had trouble reading, writing, and speaking correctly. He often mixed up words, letters, and numbers, which made him the target of ridicule and bullying at school. Oddball hated the world for being so cruel and unfair to him. He blamed his parents for passing on their defective genes, his teachers for not helping him enough, and his classmates for making fun of him. He dreamed of using his powers to get revenge on everyone who had ever wronged him. He wanted to make them suffer as he had suffered. One day, he decided to put his plan into action. He sneaked out of his home and headed to the city center, where he planned to cause chaos and destruction. He thought he could use his powers to make buildings collapse, cars crash, and people panic. He hoped that by doing so, he would make the world pay attention to him and respect him. But things did not go as he expected. As he walked down the street, he saw a group of robbers holding up a bank. He thought he could use his powers to stop them and take their money for himself. He focused his mind on the robbers and tried to make them drop their guns. But instead of dropping their guns, they dropped their pants. Oddball had accidentally switched the words guns and pants in his mind. The robbers were shocked and embarrassed by their sudden exposure. They quickly pulled up their pants and ran away, leaving behind their loot and their hostages. The hostages were grateful and relieved by their unexpected rescue. They cheered and applauded Oddball, who was confused and annoyed by their reaction. He continued his rampage, trying to cause more mayhem. He saw a fire truck rushing to a burning building. He thought he could use his powers to make the fire truck explode and spread the fire. He focused his mind on the fire truck and tried to make it burst into flames. But instead of bursting into flames, it burst into flowers. Oddball had accidentally switched the words flames and flowers in his mind. The fire truck was covered with colorful petals and leaves. The firefighters were surprised and amused by their sudden decoration. They laughed and smiled as they continued their work, using the water from the hose to put out the fire. The people in the building were saved and happy by their unexpected delivery. They thanked and praised Oddball, who was frustrated and angry by their response. He gave up on his plan, realizing that he could not use his powers effectively. He decided to go back home and sulk in his room. But as he walked back, he saw something that changed his mind. He saw a little girl crying on the sidewalk, holding a broken doll in her hands. She had been hit by a car that had run a red light. The driver had fled the scene, leaving her alone and injured. Oddball felt a surge of compassion for the girl. He remembered how he felt when he was hurt and alone. He decided to use his powers to help her. He focused his mind on the girl and tried to make her heal and smile. But instead of healing and smiling, she flew and giggled. Oddball had accidentally switched the words heal and fly in his mind. The girl was lifted into the air by an invisible force. She felt no pain or fear, only joy and wonder. She laughed as she soared above the buildings, feeling free and happy. She saw Oddball below her, looking up at her with a smile on his face. She waved at him and thanked him for making her fly. Oddball felt a warm feeling in his chest. He realized that he had done something good for someone else. He realized that he did not have to hate the world or himself. He realized that he could use his powers for good instead of evil. He smiled back at the girl and waved at her too. He decided to call himself Oddball, the unlikely hero.